let's dive right in. We're tackling The Shawshank Redemption today.
Oh, a classic.
It really is. It's fascinating how this movie, even though it wasn't a smash hit right out of the gate.
Right. It totally snuck up on everyone.
It did. And it climbed its way to the top of like every best movie list out there.
It's true. Shawshank really gets under your skin, you know? It's a slow burn, but it sticks with you.
Totally. And you've given us not just a detailed Wikipedia article on it, but the actual script. So no excuses for us.
Yeah.
Let's unpack this whole thing. How did a story about hope and friendship inside a brutal prison like Shawshank become such a phenomenon?
Well, I think that's the beauty of it. It didn't announce itself as this big, important movie. It just drew you in with its characters, its story, this really authentic look at prison life. And
it doesn't sugarcoat anything. Right from the first scene, we're thrown into this harsh, unforgiving world.
Absolutely.
Imagine you're Andy Dufresne, wrongly convicted, facing a life sentence in a place like Shawshank.
And we experience it all through Red's eyes. He becomes our guide, this cynical, world-weary narrator.
Red, Morgan Freeman, what a performance.
Iconic, right?
He's seen it all. He's got that dry wit, that sense of humor about even the bleakest situations. You know, he's put up walls.
Oh, for sure. Years, decades even, of being inside will do that to you.
You get the feeling Red's got this whole survival mode thing down to a science.
Oh, absolutely. He has to. But it's more than that. He introduces us to the whole ecosystem of Shawshank.
And those characters, like Bruce Hatlin. He's been inside so long that he can't even fathom life on the outside anymore.
Oh, Brooks. He just breaks your heart, you know? The institutionalization, how it just wears a person down.
It makes you think, what chance does anyone have once they've been swallowed up by a place like that?
It's a bleak thought. And then you've got the flip side, the power dynamic, with someone like Byron Hadley.
Ugh, Hadley. Talk about a piece of work. The way he throws his weight around as captain of the guard.
He embodies the corruption, the abuse of power that the system breeds.
And of course we meet Tommy Williams later on.
Right.
This young guy, big cocky.
But important.
Hugely important to Andy's story. But even from those early scenes, the way the script depicts the arrival of the fresh fish, it's brutal.
It's like they have this system to break them down right from the start, take away their identity.
The jeering, the rituals, it's dehumanizing.
It's designed to do exactly that. Turn a man into a number. Remind him that he's lost his freedom, his individuality.
It's more than a physical prison.
It's a psychological one. Shawshank wants to crush your spirit, make you lose all hope.
And yet, even in that darkness, you start to see these little flickers of humanity.
Exactly, which I think makes the story all the more powerful.
And that's where someone like Andy Dufresne really stands out, wouldn't you say? He's just got this quiet strength about him.
From day one, you just know Andy's not going to let Shawshank break him.
Exactly. And it's interesting, he uses his smarts, his background, as a banker.
Right.
Not just to survive, but to actually carve out a little space for himself.
A little hope.
Yeah. In that whole mess. It's fascinating how he does it so gradually, so methodically.
Like he's playing the long game, right?
Yeah, totally. And that brings us to, well, one of the most iconic symbols in the film, the rock hammer.
Ah, yes.
On the surface, just a tool.
Right.
But it represents so much more.
It's that slow, painstaking progress.
Exactly. Every tap, tap, tap against that cell wall.
It's like chipping away at fate itself.
Isn't it? You get this feeling that Andy, he never gives up on that tiny sliver of hope that one day he'll be free.
And that's what makes it so powerful, because hope, especially in a place like Shawshank, it's the one thing they can't take away from you.
And that's where Andy becomes more than just a prisoner, right? He becomes this beacon of hope for the other guys.
He's a symbol, for sure.
I love that line in the film where they call him a hope dealer.
Perfect description.
It is, because he understands that hope can be its own kind of currency in a place like that.
Absolutely. And he finds these brilliant ways to spread it around.
Like with the library. Right.
Or the library.
But he doesn't just hoard knowledge for himself. It's about sharing it, empowering the other inmates.
Exactly. Knowledge as a form of liberation.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's not just about books either. It's that whole rooftop scene where he gets them all that beer.
Oh, man. What a scene.
Talk about a taste of freedom.
Even if it's just for a little while.
But you see their faces, right? It's like for that one brief moment, they're not in Shawshank anymore.
They're just guys having a beer in the sun.
Exactly. And it shows you how smart Andy is, how he's figured out how to work the system.
Because he understands it.
He does. He uses his financial knowledge to get leverage.
On the guards.
Right. Like with that whole thing, helping that guard with his inheritance tax.
The irony.
It's brilliant. He manipulates the situation to bring a little bit of joy into that awful place.
And it works. For a while, at least.
It does. And then there's that scene. The Mozart scene.
Oh, chills. Every time.
When he plays that opera music over the loudspeakers.
The whole prison just stops.
Everything. Like the world just pauses.
It's like everyone's transported somewhere else.
And for a few minutes, they're not prisoners and guards anymore. They're just people sharing this moment of beauty.
Exactly. It's such a powerful statement about the power of art.
To transcend those walls.
And to connect us, even in the darkest of places.
It gives me chills just thinking about it.
And of course, he gets punished for it.
Solitary confinement.
But even there, he finds a way to hold on to his spirit.
Remember that line? I had Mr. Mozart to keep me company.
It's like, solitary can't touch him. Not really. Not on the inside.
He's already found his freedom, in a way.
Exactly. But then, things take a turn.
Yeah, Tommy Williams shows up.
With a story that could change everything.
Finally, a glimmer of hope that Andy might actually clear his name.
It's almost too good to be true.
And it is, because then we get that crushing blow when Warden Norton refuses to listen to Tommy's story.
Norton, the epitome of corruption.
He'd rather protect himself, his power, than see justice done.
It's infuriating.
It is. And you see the hope drain out of Andy after that.
It's like that last bit of light has gone out.
It's heartbreaking. But at the same time, it's almost like that moment lights a fire in Andy.
Oh, fire.
He realizes he can't rely on anyone else to get him out of this mess.
He has to take matters into his own hands.
Exactly. Talk about a turning point. He's done playing by their rules.
He's done all right.
And that leads us to, well, I mean, come on. It's one of the most famous prison breaks in movie history.
Oh, absolutely.
When you think Shawshank Redemption.
No, he'd like escape.
You think escape. Crawling through that tunnel.
So much sewage.
I know. But the way the script builds up to it, it's masterful.
It's so subtle, so gradual.
Right. Like those pinup posters on his cell wall. Rita Hayworth.
Marilyn Monroe.
Each one, another layer of rock chipped away.
And nobody suspects a thing?
The guards just see those glamorous faces.
They have no idea what's really going on behind them.
It's brilliant. Hope, hidden in plain sight. But it's more than just escaping, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Well, the title of the film, The Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Redemption, that word, it makes you think, what does it really mean in this context?
That's interesting. It's not just about getting out, is it? It's about something more.
Exactly. Because Andy, he doesn't just break out for himself.
He brings Red along, in a way.
That's what gets me. He leaves that letter, that promise of a new life in Zihuatanejo.
Remember Red, he says, hope is a good thing.
Oh, man, that line. It's like he's throwing this lifeline to Red.
He's saying, don't give up. There's more out there for you.
It's the power of belief, you know. Andy never stopped believing in Red, even when Red didn't believe in himself.
And that's true friendship, isn't it? Believing in someone even when they can't see it themselves.
It really is. And it makes you think about Brooks.
Oh, Brooks. Such a tragic figure.
He gets released after 50 years, and he just can't handle it.
The outside world is too much for him.
It's like he's been in that cage for so long, he doesn't know how to fly anymore.
He lost his hope somewhere along the way.
And you see those same fears in Red. When he gets paroled.
Oh, yeah, he's terrified.
40 years, gone. He's institutionalized, just like Brooks.
That scene where he's working at the grocery store, so lost.
And he almost makes the same mistake as Brooks.
Right.
Considering robbing the place.
It's like he's drawn to that familiar darkness, that feeling of being trapped.
It's heartbreaking. Because you see him struggling with those old patterns, those years of conditioning.
But then he remembers. He remembers Andy and that promise.
That hope.
And he chooses life. He chooses Zihuatanejo.
Caught that moment when he tears up that bus ticket and just heads south?
Following that map, that dream.
You just know in your gut that he's going to find Andy.
They're going to reunite on that beach, finally free.
It's such a satisfying ending, even though we don't actually see it happen.
We hear it, though, in Red's voice. He's finally found his own redemption.
It reminds you that hope really is a powerful thing. It can bloom even in the darkest of places, like that tiny flower pushing through the concrete.
Exactly. And that even though the journey might be long and full of setbacks...
Freedom, redemption, whatever you call it, it's always possible.
As long as you don't give up on it. And on yourself.
And that's what makes The Shawshank Redemption such a timeless story. It's about the power of hope, of friendship, of the human spirit to overcome even the most impossible odds. So yeah, I'd say our deep dive into The Shawshank Redemption has been pretty illuminating today.
Absolutely. It's a film that stays with you.
It really does.